chases them down trying to kill them. Pretty stark contrast compared to Devimon, who would send weaker creatures to do his bidding and did more sitting around gloating than actual attacking. Classic dumb villain syndrome. Edamon didn't fool around, and he tried to kill off the Digidestined himself on a constant basis, a task made a lot easier by his ability to simply open up the dark network under their feet, which would suck out any energy that they tried to use to Digivolve. The kids all managed to find their crests over time, each form to activate through the power of their greatest strengths, but they still don't know how to use them. Desperate to defeat Edamon, Tai tries to force his to work, but for reasons I'll discuss in part 2, that doesn't work either. Soon Sora is the only one left searching for her crest, and their investigation takes them straight to Edamon's headquarters, where Izzy deciphers some interesting code that throws the bunch for a loop. Not only are they in a digital world, but in the transfer between dimensions, they have actually become data themselves. Most of the kids react a little squeamishly, but Tai practically lights up, telling the others that this makes this world like a video game and that they can't really get hurt.
Relax, it's not like we're human or anything. We're just bunches of kilobytes, remember?
The weak point should be... here.
Cool! Are you coming in, or are you just gonna stand there all day?
Not the brightest crayon in the box, our fearless leader. He charges through what appears to be an electric fence completely unharmed simply because he believed it was a digital illusion, that it wouldn't hurt him, which, with Tai's passionate energy, made it so. This is one of only a few reminders we get that this world was created mostly through the power of children's dreams, and so wishes and emotions have Deus Ex Machina-like qualities to them. They're still totally acceptable because of the rules of the universe. This season would toy with the idea a little, but it was the second season that would really tackle and run with it, for better or for worse. Anyway, past the fence, they free a robotic prisoner of Edamon's in the pyramid named Datamon, the genius behind the Dark Network creation, who was used and abused by our orange villain. But he's been locked away so long he's short-circuited and can only think of vengeance on Edamon, leading him to betray the kids that freed him so he can destroy the monkey as well. He plants viruses into Edamon's dark network that cause it to throb out of control and suck up all the evil energy in the area.
Including yours, fool!
As Edamon and all his minions are consumed by the dark network, kinda did the kid's job for them, I think, he merges with the big ball of dimension-warping nastiness and tries once more to destroy the kids. So never mind, he's just an even bigger and quite uglier problem. Tai finally lives up to his crest, the Crest of Courage, and tells the others to get to safety while he charges ahead with Greymon to stop the freak show. Greymon is able to evolve to the ultimate level and attack the cluster's weak point for massive damage. Something in Edamon's dark network malfunctions from the abuse, and he implodes into a black hole, which sucks in both Tai and Metal Greymon. Despite the exciting ending, this arc wasn't as good as I probably made it sound. Due to the villain's lack of even barely logical motivation, and the pretty mindless hunt for the crests being repetitive and meandering, this run of episodes almost feels like bland, stupid filler, as the real character development that those crests would bring to the show only comes into play when each kid is able to activate their crest, not when they initially find them in this rather random and scavenger hunt-like run of episodes. So it was really a step back from the Devimon arc, but thankfully it would get about 10 times better starting with the next episode.
Where am I? Who are all these people? Huh? Koromon. I'm home.
This is the segment of the series Mamoru Hosoda, now a brilliant director of family films, took over for, and it's pretty striking. Tai and a recovering Koromon find themselves in a sharp change of art style when that black hole from before plants them back in Japan, of all places. The colors are dull and the music is quiet or non-existent. After spending all this time trying to get home, Tai realizes after the initial relief that he should go back to the digital world, but finds himself just sort of wandering around his apartment for a whole episode, powerless to go back, and just sort of taking in the normalcy instead. It's a strange episode, alright, but it reveals 3 essential plot points despite the slow atmosphere. For one thing, almost no time has passed in the real world despite the weeks that have gone by in the digital world. And when Tai realizes his friends are all on Narnia time, so to speak, he becomes far more worried about the peril they face as the digital days zip by without him. For another thing, Tai's sister is creepy. I don't know if this is intentional, but in both languages, Kari, who we'll later learn is an extremely sweet character, comes off as really disturbing when she first appears. She knows who Koromon is for one thing, and the way she approaches all this weirdness like it's nothing even freaks Tai out.
Maybe she goes to my camp in the future and is sucked into Digiworld like I was, but comes back before me. Oh, I don't know.
What's wrong, Ty?
Nothing.
Then why do you think I have a fever?
Huh?
I'm not sick, and I've been to Digiworld.
No way.
Well, I think you have. Where else could you find a Koromon?
You do know. I'd better call everyone else's house to see if they got home too.
The whole episode's tone of bland coldness, with Kari being overly cuddly toward Tai as if no time has passed and he's never going to leave again, because, well, it hasn't for her, while we know there's turmoil in the fantastical digital world, it makes the whole affair stand out enormously from everything else in the show. That sneaking feeling of unseen danger finally becomes visible as the episode ends and shadows of Digimon, invisible to all but Tai and Kari, try to emerge in the real world, attacking buildings and whatnot to leave shadowy ghosts of damage that could be. Tai realizes the illusions will become real if they completely cross dimensions, and there must be something terrible going on in the digital world without him. He tries to contact Izzy somehow, but Izzy, curiously enough, tells him never to come back. The reason for this is actually pretty hilarious, but I'll touch on it just in part 2. Anyway, the rift between the worlds continues to break down enough that an Ogremon starts to cause real damage to the city, although normal people still can't see him for some reason. Oh well. Agumon fights him, but doing so rips open a portal back into the digital world. Tai bids his sister a sad farewell and heads back to help his friends fight whatever's causing this mayhem. And during all this, we get some strange hints that something like this has happened before, and that Kari remembers, but Tai doesn't yet, hence her recognition of Koromon. At the end of it all, we see that a Digivice has appeared, so we'll learn later that this odd vignette wasn't a filler episode of any kind, but a very essential chunk of foreshadowing for some developments many episodes from now. The next several episodes are yet another round of the gang trying to find each other, but are much more important as during the journey, many of the kids activate their crests through their quests of self-discovery. All the same, I'll cover all that character stuff in part 2, so the long and short of it is that the kids' endeavors to find Tai ended up getting them lost and split up thanks to both their lack of a leader and the conniving misdeeds of a minion named Devimon, who is working for a mysterious, shadowy villain. Over time, they all find each other again, and Devimon's boss, Myotismon, a rather camp-looking ultimate-level vampire, makes his appearance. He admits that he underestimated the children's weakness when divided by simply sending his goofy underling to take care of them, who was foiled at every turn by Sora. Sora was actually the only kid of the group who wasn't lost at all, and kept her friends safe from the shadows, but didn't want them to find her in return. The reasons for this, well, I'll cover when I discuss her character in part 2. Her crest does activate in this episode, though, and Biamon's ultimate form, Garudamon, is just strong enough to save them from grisly destruction at Myotismon's hands. Genai takes the opportunity to beam in and inform them that, oh yeah, there was supposed to be an 8th Digi-destined all along, but the kid missed the call for certain reasons, and Myotismon has been trying to find a way into the real world to destroy the child while she's partnerless, and then take over the real world with his massive gathering army. Just FYI, guys. Genai's a douche. They infiltrate Myotismon's castle to stop him and hopefully use the portal to get back home themselves, pretending to be evil recruits.
I'm Punkagumon!
I'm Reggae Palmon! Yeah!
What a couple of weirdos!
What, hippies and Jamaicans are evil, right? They manage to get to the dimensional gate while it's open, but are stopped by the world's cutest henchman. Gatomon, Myotismon's right-hand cat, is strong enough to maintain champion level as her default, and so knocks our heroes over like dominoes, escaping into the real world to kill the 8th child.
Goodbye!
No! Open up! Open! It can't be!
Thankfully, there's still that whole time difference thing, so they have time to visit Genai's home and ask for help. Genai tells them Myotismon has surfaced at Heightened View Terrace, and yes, he does have a Deus Ex Machina on hand to get them to the real world and stop him. But it's iffy. There's some spell cards that should activate Myotismon's dimensional gate to the real world. Gee, that's not a plug for collectible plastic there, is it, riders? The trick is, there are 10 cards, and a specific arrangement of 9 cards is needed to get the gate open to Earth. Of course, Genai doesn't know that arrangement. and a wrong arrangement of the cards could lead the gate to open to another dimension, or more likely, a non-dimension that would turn the kids into a sort of a mutated pile of mush.
Don't worry. You're not going to switch your skin with anyone as long as you learn how to use the cards correctly.
But we don't have any idea what to do.
You must learn to use your power the way Otaku is using his.
'Cause you know, that's child-friendly. I still have no idea how Jedi could have A, gotten those cards, and B, then not know how to use them. Especially when he gives Izzy some key hints to figuring it out himself in a private talk. But plot holes of this nature are kind of a moot point in a nonsense fantasy like this, and besides, there's nothing compared to the genuinely boggling plot holes we'll encounter in Season 2. Izzy does figure out the right arrangement of cards to open the gate to the real world, and they immediately start their search for the 8th child, taking a bus to Heighton View Terrace. When trying to come up with an excuse to leave camp, the kids realize with shock that they all have one to offer the counselor. They all lived in Heighton View Terrace several years ago, but moved away shortly after. Just when it strikes them that that can't be a coincidence, a memory resurges in their minds of a Greymon and a Parrotmon battling in the streets at night.
This is just how it happened. Back then, a giant ball of fire destroyed the bridge.
Something is definitely different. I remember the fire-breathing monster didn't fly. There had to be another one.
You're right, there were two monsters fighting, but they were different than these two. The fire-breathing monster I saw. Greymon. It was Greymon and another Digimon. Sora! It was Greymon!
Right. Greymon!
It turns out they had all witnessed the event, but then forgot it, like a dream shortly afterward, and then realized that's the reason they were chosen as the Digidestined. They were already connected to both each other and the digital world through that event. So the 8th child must therefore have lived in Heighton View Terrace as well, probably someone they know, and like most everyone else, moved away after the incident, which was blamed on terrorists. By the way, that's not in the dub, just in the Japanese version. Terrorism is not America-friendly. So they try and find their way back to nearby Odaiba, where all their families moved after the incident. As you might be able to tell, this is really the point where the show became something special and threw its best twists into the mix. We got to see how the real world might react to all these monsters, and having such an ambitious villain who was quite good at carrying out his plans raced to find this 8th kid before the Digidestined could, while dealing with all the weirdnesses of real-world Japan instead of the nonsensical digital world, like the kids trying to hitchhike back home in time.
You kids want a cab?
Yeah!
You got any money?
No.
Like the local authorities trying to combat Myotismon's army. Well, it was just incredibly entertaining. It was made all the better by the fact that we knew who the 8th child was, Tai's sister, making a scene where Gatomon sneaks into the house, claws bared, while Kari's alone on the couch, the most nail-biting thing ever for a little kid to have to sit through. However, the very best thing about this arc was the implementation of the kids' families into the story. Their personal mundane conflicts, like divorce, adoption, sibling inferiority, etc., were slammed right up against these epic battles with Myotismon's army, and their parents were almost more diverse in personality than the kids themselves.
He's keeping something inside and he doesn't want to tell us what's wrong.
Even if he is, you can't blame him. After all, we're hiding something from him. It's probably just a phase he's going through.
I'll cover a lot of these search episodes in part 2, but during the scramble, Kari's hidden Digivice is snatched up by her cat and gets dragged all over town, sending both the evil Digimon and the Digidestined on a wild goose chase before the trinket is snatched up by a crow to line its nest. Suddenly, Myotismon has a stroke.
What? I'm genius!
And decides to spread a nasty fog over the city for a short time so he can go out in the daylight. Remember, he is a vampire. And then round up all the children in the district in one place to sift through them and find the 8th child. How does he plan to do that? Well, he happened to get his mitts on the 8th child's tag and crest, and he made several copies of it to give to his minions while they were searching the city. He rents out the convention center by force and then rounds up kids and parents alike to sniff out the crest bearer using his own personal tag. Some people wondered why he grabbed so many adults too, but I actually figured this was obvious. I mean, we see he routinely sucks women dry in the dead of night, so he was probably just grocery shopping, honestly. Remember, he is a vampire. Meanwhile, Myotismon's left-hand minion and Gatomon's best friend, only friend really, Wizardmon, has put 2 and 2 together and discovered that Kari is the 8th child, and Gatomon is not so far behind him in assuming so as well. The kids are still far off the mark from figuring it out, so things are looking pretty bleak for Kari. Except that Gatomon can't quite bring herself to kill the little tyke, no matter